I did have a question about the election equipment. It is already in the budget, as I said. When I was looking around for it first, I couldn't find where I had it in the budget, but it is in the budget. We can apply for a grant. About last August, July of last year, we had talked about the evaluation that had to be done,
Yes, ma'am.
and that has to be done before we can apply for this grant. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, and we've completed our part. We're waiting on the results.
Okay. Why has it taken so long? That was last August, no, last July. I think.
Because the whole entire state's required to do it and only one
I
company.
didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The whole entire state is required to do it now. So therefore, the one company that's doing this for each county has to spread it all out.
So we have been talking about it and working on it for about a year, trying to
Yes, ma'am.
get to this point, so that we can complete the grant and the budget amount in there. I just rounded it off to 300,000.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not exactly the amount that this company had proposed, because we don't know when the time comes. We'll have to go out for bids probably for it, see which vendor you're going to select. So,
Okay, I spoke to an attorney at the Secretary of State's office, and the election equipment is not something you have to go out for quotes for.
okay, all right.
So I did question that this morning before I came to court.
We don't have any idea when that grant will be, when we can complete that grant. It will be after they come, and they're supposed to come when?
We've already done our part. They didn't come. We did it for 2 solid days on the computer Zoom meeting, face-to-face on video with our IT person, which I say our IT, Carrie Hancock and everybody. So they all have completed the process. Now we're waiting on them to write up the whole process scoring, and then it's going to be sent to you, myself, and we will, I guess, be done at that point. So we're waiting on their end to
Any other
finish.
discussion about the election equipment? We will be having a meeting next Thursday. And we'll have a budget review at that time. Also have a public hearing on the proposed tax rate. Is there any other comment or questions that any of you have about the budget at this time? We'll be doing a little more thorough review on the next Thursday on the budget, after you've looked at your proposed budget a little more closely.
Well, the proposed budget is based on $3,93751.
Yes, which is the no new revenue rate.
Right.
The
We're
proposed is
We're still going with the $1.49.
That is the proposed rate. We can go up to that rate if we choose to do so.
Or we can go down to 0.393751 and bring in the money we bring right now.
Yes, but that is what is in the budget at this time, is
Really?
that no new revenue rate.
Well, last year was $1.49.
That's correct.
I thought we had a motion made down the meeting before.
No, that's proposed.
That's proposed.
Oh,
Just
okay.
the proposed rate, doesn't mean,
Okay.
nothing is set in stone at this point. We're still going through and discussing.
May I discuss the elections?
I'm sorry?
May I discuss the elections?
May you what?
May I discuss about the elections?
Sure.
Okay.
Does that have anything to do with budget review?
Yes, ma'am, about an election administrative request.
Oh, okay,
Is that this time?
Yes, that is.
Okay, I am requesting election administrator. The elections has become a very, very big, drawn-out process. I am still working on the primary and the primary runoff. At this time, I'm also working on the November election. I have 7 entities that I am going to be having on our ballots their election also. It's very, very tedious, and it has become very, very hard to put 1,000% into what I want to do with the clerk's office and elections, because with doing elections, I have to close my office on election day. I put off doing a lot of different stuff in the county clerk part when I'm doing elections. So it's become such a big job. You have all the machines you must upkeep, you have reports you must do, you have canvassing you do. There's so many things that's going on with elections that it's gotten a horrendous job. It is very much to do. The voter registrar job has gotten, you know, to where we work very close together. But I feel one person needs to be doing these elections because you work so close together and they all tie in together, get your ballot styles together, and it's elections administrator needs someone to put a year-round job to it and their expertise on this. So I am requesting election administrator. I believe Beth told me she passed out my letter that I requested last time and gave some information about the Secretary of State's, what they recommend, their timing for what has to be done calendar-wise. That's only one section. You have ES&S that you deal with, that you must meet their calendar needs. It's gotten to where it's year-round, and I think somebody needs to specialize in elections. So I am requesting election administrator. At one point when I had visited with the judge and said something about an election administrator, we discussed that it might be a good time to request because the voter registrar has retired in the tax office, so therefore the highest salary she had has gone down to they rehired someone at a lower level, so there's a little bit of extra money there that could be considered. At one time, the tax office was willing to give up an employee. I was willing to give an employee to take one position and put into an election administrator. We've still not done that. Well, this year I was told by the tax assessor collector she wasn't willing to give an employee up. I have spoke to Mr. Ralston. That's going to be on the November ballot without an opponent as far as we know. There's no write-in. And he is for an election administrator. He does not see that elections should be in that office also. I think it's a conflict of interest, me being on the ballot. And I believe y'all probably would understand me saying if you ran the elections and you had an opponent or your opponent was running the elections, I think you might see what I'm saying, that it's a conflict of interest for somebody being on the ballot and you're also holding the elections. There's been several issues with questions about those kinds of things. So to me, an election administrator is needed. And
What percentage of your office's time goes to elections, would you say?
I wouldn't say the percentage because several of us do it and we work constantly with it when we're having elections and before. It's like I'm saying, it's a year round because there's, you know, voter registrars year round, desks that you deal with the voter registrar. There's year round for that position, not just my office, it's tax office and, you know, it become. So, you know, it's a year round job.
How many people you think it would take to run that office?
An election administrator. From my experience, there is one election administrator, and they may have an assistant, and they have part-time that they call in and do because they're doing the elections year-round, so they have the time to sit, and they're doing it every day. So I have dealt with Limestone County this year as trying to hold these 7 entities elections with me not having the experience of knowing what to do with all these ballots styles, that I've got to have a ballot if I'm in Fairfield School District, I'm in the hospital district, and I'm with the county. Well, some of these people in my same precinct, or in, not my same precinct, excuse me, the city there's also a city, so you've got to have all these ballots for these different people, and I have no experience with this. I don't know the laws of the other entities, and that's why I, struggled, and I'm going to be struggling through this, but I'm going to make it, and I'm going to make it go to my best success. But it's something somebody needs to specialize in, because it takes a lot of effort put in just trying to hold these 7 entities, and an election administrator would be holding everybody else's elections because they're required to, which the county clerk is not required to do it. So somebody needs to specialize in the laws for all the other entities to help them out too. The other entities have expressed a need for an EA.
Then, do you have someone in your office that's interested in this position?
There was at one time a possibility, but I'm not so sure if that's, at one time they were interested, but I'm not sure if they are now. I hadn't talked to them in the last couple of months about it.
Until today, just now, we talked about election administrators for a long time. I thought you were talking about one person, election administrator. Well, it's going to take more. I'm wondering how is one going to do it when it takes your whole office?
Because they're there year-round, and they're working on it 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day. Not my office, we spread it all
I
around.
know, but how do you, we've been running elections out of your office.
In the tax office.
And then we'll say we need election administrator. I think, well, that's just one election administrator. Well, you're talking about that person, probably 2 more, 3 people.
No, sir, I'm talking they can get part-time
Oh.
as needed. Part-time is needed to do the chores that they have to do. Limestone County, I work very close with her with elections, and she's just one of her own. And she does an amazing job, so there's election administrators who have the time to do this. They're there, the whole entire year doing these things.
So, in your office, you don't work on elections the whole entire year. You just work on them as they come up and then try to finish the election for this year. And once you finish it, even if it takes you part of next year, then
That's
you
correct.
through with it until the next election.
That's
Where
correct.
an election administrator would work 24/7,
They would be
7 days a
doing,
week.
yes, sir, they would be doing the tax offices also, and the tax offices year-round, what I understand, for them to do their voter registration, and when we get deaths, those are sent to the voter registrar to put it where they are no longer a registered voter. There's a lot of things that we send to them that we know, is,
That's what Alder did before she retired,
yes, sir.
and then.
Then chat,
Okay.
yes.
So let me get that one more question. So could you give up a person in your office?
I'm willing to.
Let me say this. Could you give up a person in your office that is working on it, and then a person that's over in the tax office, they could give up the person that's working on the balance? That's 2 people, right?
Okay, but the tax office is not willing to lose an employee
I'm
to
talking
get
about
an
the
EA.
new person, but the new person said that they might.
Lisa, in her office, is not willing to lose an employee to gain an EA. She would not like to do that.
Okay. But I'm talking about the new person in November. Did he say he would give up one person?
Oh, that wasn't discussed. I'm sorry. I mean, you made that clear now. He did not discuss that at all with me. That wasn't an option that I talked about.
But I'm thinking, what I'm thinking is if that person over there in that tax office is already doing that work, if that person is already doing that work over there in that office, why not give up that person if that's their job to do that work?
I think they work on everything in the office also. I don't know that. I can't speak for that, but I don't think they're just elections. They do other things in that office. So that would be something, to talk to the tax assessor collector about on that part. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We all think about it, and we'll be talking about it next time.
Good, I think we have the app person that works with the animal services here.
Oh, I didn't see that. That line is right in my eye.
I'm just gonna summarize kind of what I sent the judge in an email. And your support this year in needing what recovery. Pandemic has caused us a lot of stress, not only in that field, but in my position, having to deal with finances of it. I mean, one of these masks used to cost me a couple cents, it cost me a couple dollars. So, sanitizers, cleaners, all that stuff, we gotta do that, use that every day. Just then, for our animals, just to clean our animals. So expenses haven't gone down. This year, we took out a loan. We opted to use, the government allowed us to get a loan for the paycheck protection program that they had. We did that. At the time that we did that, I wasn't sure that we were going to need it, but we did everything. So we took out the maximum amount that we were allowed, which was $181,000.
How much, I'm sorry, how much?
$181,000
Was the law for?
with our loan. Yep. It's yet to be determined whether we got to pay that back or not, or it will be forgiven. So I can tell you this, that we qualified to be forgiven, but we still have an issue paperwork to do it. So don't know where we'd be. I'd be in here begging for money a whole lot sooner than I am now, considering the budget for next year. So Fairfield Ambulance Service highly depends on the subsidy of the government. So we depend on the county, we depend on the city, and the hospital district has given us funds in the past also, mainly towards capital expenses. The city last year cut us $25,000 from our budget, and I don't know if that was to match the budget that we get from the county, and we've gotten from the county in the past. We were getting $125,000 from them from years past. Last year, it actually reduced us in 2019 because the way our physical budget's lined up here is just physical, non-county. So we actually got cut money in 2019, didn't get the full amount that we were expecting in, by a few thousand, about $12,000.
That was $117,000, what y'all got to see?
Got $100,000. Same as what the county is. Last, this for this year.
Okay.
We've been getting 125 from the city for about 6 years. But I come in here about 6 years ago and asked for $125,000 and never got it. So this year I'm asking for $150 from both city and county. $25,000 would be allotted towards capital expenses. I don't know if y'all know how much an ambulance costs. Some of y'all are familiar with how much a fire truck costs, but an ambulance has to be replaced every 3 to 5 years, and it's $250,000 to replace it. That's just an ambulance. That doesn't count the stretcher. That's another $20,000. That doesn't count the cardiac monitor that's in there that has to be changed out every 3 to 5 years. That's another $35,000. And that ambulance that you see driving down the road costs about $500,000. And we have 3.
Did I see the bad debt at $500,000?
Yes,
The back on what you gave us,
we send it,
paperwork?
we send every bit of that to the collection agency, and they collect about 1%.
1%. Wow.
So bad debt it's a big deal. It's the ones that can't afford to pay it. The Obamacare and insurances, I mean, that's a $12,500 deductible. Do you think they're going to pay a $2,000 ambulance bill if they can't on a deductible? And we hit deductibles, right? And we can't afford that. I mean, we have to write that off for a deductible and put it towards the patient's responsibility, and which are off bad debt. So the people who qualify for that type of insurance, they're not going to pay $12,500. They can't afford $12,500. They got the insurance, and that's good for making medical stuff, but not. We take a big hit because we're so dependent upon the little bits that we get in a hospital. You're going to have a procedure at a hospital that's going to cost you $5-6 grand, not more than that. An ambulance ride costs about $22,000, $2,500, just depending. I can tell you what it cost us last year. It cost us about $700 a run. about $2,500 last year. And the county reimburses us, I don't know, did y'all get a copy of my budget?
Yeah.
And just off the volume, call volume, and this is going off the previous year. So it cost my service $700 to do that one run. We're getting reimbursed from the county for the year 2019, $91 to do that run. From the city at that time, we're getting $150. And that's not including the hospital district's funds that go on there. We've only done a lot of those for capital expenses. So, a lot of talk about ventilators. I have one ventilator. I have some that are well over 10 years old. We don't use those. I have one ventilator I purchased 2 years ago. It's a very good one, a year and a half. It's a very good ventilator. It's been used almost every day in the past week. I only have one. But I staff 2 trucks. So I have a truck that doesn't have a ventilator. That was in our budget for last year, but it's something that we had to set aside because of cost. So ventilator costs about $12,000. The ones that we use. Nothing like the hospital. Hospitals are way more than that. They're more detailed on ours. But ours gets the patient from point A to point B, and that's what we do. So, we're in dire need. I don't know where we'll go from here, but it won't be good. I know if you look around, go to the county around us, the most recent one is looking at the city of Buffalo and their Oakwood and that area over there. About 10, 11, 12 years ago, they went to a district, emergency service district. At that time, that whole county, and that section of the county, we're going to do that. They had an ambulance that was provided by Talisman. They weren't paying for the ambulance. The ambulance was doing it just for PR. And it come to the point where they said, we can't be here anymore, y'all need to repair it. Or subsidize us to be here. Because it costs us too much money to staff this and services. And they didn't do it. Now ambulance service left. And they had to go out and get an emergency loan. They had to get it passed to be an emergency service district. They had to take out a loan for, I don't know, I think it was well over $1 million to start an ambulance service, to take bids for an ambulance service community. And I think their tax base is $250,000. They pay $245,000 for an ambulance service. One ambulance, 24 hours a day, just for that area. You go to Corsicana subsidized by the county, $540,000 last year. So I'm not asking for excessive amounts of money. I'm asking for enough to provide the services for this county. That's it. For the service area that we cover. That's all I'm asking. We don't have a tax base. I can't go out and increase taxes. I can't ask for more taxes. My budget is what we get from y'all and what we are reimbursed. Tell you right now, Medicare doesn't pay for it. They don't cover it. We don't get paid $700 for Medicare for a run. They cover about 60% of that. So 40% of that comes out of your pocket, my pocket, everybody's pocket. Medicare don't even cover the cost of ambulance transport. And they'll tell you that up front. They don't cover it. And then you're left, people that are on straight Medicare, they're left with a 20% deductible. We bill that. They don't pay it, it goes to bad debt. So we did increase our rates last year. Our bad debt went up a little bit this year because we increased our rate by $100 per month. I will tell you that we are the lowest ambulance service as far as charges go anywhere out there. And because I can raise them, I can raise them to what I want. Insurance is only going to pay or allow a certain amount. And everything over there is going to be right. Now, I base my bad debt on, if I could collect that, that's about how much money I need to maintain the unit line. So if you see $300,000 or $400,000 in bad debt, if I could collect that bad debt, then I wouldn't be serious. I wouldn't need it. So it's a hard time. But I know y'all got a hard decision to make on taxes coming up, but somebody's going to have to pay for it, whether Fairfield Ambulance Service is here or not. There will be an ambulance service here, and they will be getting paid to do it. And it may not be as cheap as what we are right now.
Any questions?
here in Fairfield. I think that is vitally important to us. So I don't think other than the voting machines and the ambulance services, the two things that I really support this year is I think we really need to think about supporting them.
Is it written in stone that we can stay at 8% for 2 years, and then we go to 3.5?
I think you have, let me look and see what we have to do.
Isn't that what the governor said, because of the predicament we're in
Possibly,
with our population
I
countywide?
think the governor declared an emergency. That, he declared one for COVID, but let me see, then I'll get back and be sure what that requirement.
Down the road, we're gonna go to a 3.5, unless the legislature's gonna be. You never know. Okay.
Anything else?
We in the comment section? Are we in the comment section? Commissioners' comments?
Oh, yeah, let's go to commission.
I just got one comment. You know, one of the most important things to me is the right to vote. And we should accommodate our taxpayers to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to vote. And I think we need to look at that. That's it. I'll make a motion with John.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.